Eagle-eyed viewers and fans of Easter eggs might know that the Millennium Falcon is actually canon in Star Trek. And this isn't just some case of mistaken identity. First Contact was produced largely concurrently with the Star Wars special editions, and its visual effects were headed by Industrial Light and Magic, or ILM. It's the same company that provides the effects for the Star Wars films. ILM, with access to the newly made CGI model of the Millennium Falcon, slipped it into the battle as an Easter egg, and it wouldn't be the last time that the company would pull a stunt like that. In both Star Trek 2009 and Star Trek Into Darkness, R2-D2 appears mixed in with generic debris. So back to the Falcon. I've been resurrecting random, blurry background ships in the original Star Wars films, and a commenter on one of those videos suggested that I take a similar approach to this ship. Now, we all know what it would look like if it were perfectly clear, because it was actually made with the CGI model of the Millennium Falcon. So this isn't just a question of clarifying what's there, but the idea of the literal Millennium Falcon is kind of an unsavory crossover. So for me, the mission profile here is to design a ship that fits the general shape of the Falcon, but fits into the Star Trek world. Now, you'd actually think that the Falcon would be a fairly easy profile to adapt. It's not too dissimilar from a Miranda class, in a sense. You just gotta fill in some stuff. But there's a bit of a challenge with the direction of flight. For instance, flying this way looks a lot less goofy than flying this way. But the ship is indeed flying in the same manner as the Millennium Falcon. So if these are nacelles, they're actually leading the saucer rather than trailing behind it, as would be the tradition on a Star Trek ship. Granted, we do have goofy hull configurations in canon, like the USS Curry, and I did initially play with the idea of making the mandibles into the nacelles, but the result really was bothering me. It just didn't look right. In my opinion, strange hull configurations should be well motivated, and I came up with something completely new. Introducing the Falcata-class Heavy Phaser Repeater Vessel. The Falcata class was developed as a parallel project to the multi-vector ship separation of the Prometheus class. Projects like the Prometheus were bold concepts, but many high-ranking Starfleet figures thought that the cost to produce and maintain what was essentially 3 autonomous starships was simply too high, especially since scenarios requiring separation were relatively rare. In response to these sentiments, Starfleet pursued several alternative solutions, and it was found that there was a feasible middle ground. Starships needed to be relatively large to maintain the power output necessary to engage similarly sized vessels. But what if a vessel didn't need to generate its own phaser power? And that's where this conspicuous dorsal dish comes into play. And there's actually one on the ventral side as well. This dish is a highly classified technology that can actually near perfectly absorb phaser fire. Capacitors in the ship can temporarily store this energy, which can then be redirected out the forward emitters. So essentially, a mothership and a single small auxiliary craft can simultaneously engage in high-power multi-vector assault. Now, in theory, this technology could be applied to an even smaller ship, but the Falcata class has another function. While it wouldn't be a common weapon until the 2390s, by the 2370s, Starfleet was already developing what would be known as the Phaser Lance, an extremely focused and highly energetic phaser beam that could easily slice through most military-grade vessels. However, early development for the Phaser Lance had a major flaw. While the beam was incredibly powerful, it lost most of its effectiveness at barely a third of the effective range of standard phasers. This, coupled with its enormous drain on power, made the weapon infeasible for standard combat. However, it was found that the range of the Phaser Lance could be extended with repeater vessels, which could intercept and re-energize a beam fired from a mothership. In this case, the mothership would be the planned though never produced Falconer class. While the use of this system resulted in a net loss of destructive output, the final result was still considerably more powerful than standard phasers, and it still had the benefit of multi-vector capability. In theory, a combat area saturated with well-coordinated, relatively maneuverable Falcata-class repeater vessels could easily overwhelm virtually any force with highly unpredictable multi-vector phaser fire. So in short, the Falcata class, when paired with a mothership, was capable of destroying a target many times its size and power output, and a theoretical fleet of these relatively inexpensive vessels would be almost as formidable as a fleet of battleships, but at a minuscule fraction fraction of the cost in both material and manpower. By the Battle of Sector 001 in 2373, only one Falcata class had been produced, and at that point had no mothership. But its development facility in orbit around Earth had a functioning phaser lance that was scheduled to be transported to a remote testing ground. The facility provided lance fire to the Falcata, which landed 3 shots before its phaser absorption disc suffered a catastrophic failure. While the Falcata was not destroyed, the overloaded dish proved fatal to the crew. Despite this, Starfleet was generally pleased with the repeater system. It functioned exactly as intended and delivered firepower pretty much unmatched by most of the ships in the engagement, but its extremely low durability raised serious concerns. The project was allowed to continue but was unable to move forward until a considerably more robust dish could be developed. As of this point, it is unknown if Starfleet ever put a fully functional Falcata class into proper service. The following year, in 2374, the Prometheus would be launched. While many saw the Prometheus as the pinnacle of Starfleet tactical achievement, many who put their faith in the Falcata project saw the Prometheus as solidifying an outdated attachment to the concept of saucer separation. But who knows? The Falcata's bold approach to multi-vector tactical operations could very well still find the footing it needs to become mainstream. I hope you all like that little foray into bringing this random Easter egg to life. I'm actually pretty proud of the design and the lore that I've built for this ship, and I'm excited to hear what you all think of it. If you guys have ideas for other ships that could use this treatment, let me know. I love doing this sort of thing, and if you want to support me and help me to continue doing these sorts of projects, it would mean the world to me if you could support me on Patreon. Over on Patreon, over 130 amazing fans support me every month. They're the ones who've made this possible, and I can't thank them enough. But to the rest of you, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.